Working in a confined space presents a major health and safety risk for many employees. Many accidents have occurred because the dangers or hazards of working in a confined space are not identified or underestimated. Tragically, many confined space accidents result in more than one fatality, when attempted rescues of colleagues trapped in the confined space are unplanned and rescuers unprepared. Only persons who are appropriately trained should be carrying out work in confined spaces. What do we mean by a confined space? It can be a space of any volume which is not intended as a regular workplace but may be entered by a person, has limited or restricted means of entry and exit that makes it physically difficult for a person to enter or exit the space. It may have inadequate ventilation and/or is an atmosphere which is contaminated or oxygen deficient, and intended to be at normal atmospheric pressure at occupancy. The dangers or hazards associated with working in confined spaces can include the pressure of byproducts of previously stored materials or chemicals, accidental leaks or spills which can contaminate the atmosphere of the space, as well as add to slipping, tripping and falling hazards, unexpected or continued operation of the plant which leads to the worker being trapped or crushed by rotating or moving parts, suffocation or engulfment by solids, chemical reactions that could lead to explosion or a contaminated atmosphere, extremes of temperature leading to heat exhaustion or hypothermia, noise which may affect hearing but also prohibit or limit communication with those outside the confined space, and manual handling injuries caused from working in cramped or awkward positions. Planning confined space work includes carrying out a risk assessment of the work to be undertaken. That is, identifying the hazards associated with performing the task, assessing the risk of these hazards causing harm, and implementing suitable controls to eliminate or reduce the risk. This planning should include a proper evaluation of the confined space and surrounding area. Your workplace may record or document this planning or assessment on a work permit or job safety analysis sheet. Part of the assessment will also include identifying appropriate emergency rescue plans. The following are some general guidelines for safe confined space work. Prior to entry, check that all residual contaminants have been removed from the confined space. The atmosphere within the space for toxic or flammable airborne contaminants and oxygen concentration. Where working in boilers and furnaces, allow adequate time for cooling. Follow any lockout or entry permit procedure, ensuring that all valves and switches connected with the confined space are closed and locked. This is to prevent the accidental introduction of contaminants, live steam or water, and the operation of any moving parts. Purge the space if needed, and make sure that necessary personal protective equipment is available and used. While work is being performed in the confined space, there needs to be continuous monitoring of the operation. Make sure that there is a means of communication between those working in the confined space and those on standby or observing. Someone should be within hailing distance at all times. Where possible, workers should be fitted with a harness and lifeline to cater for an emergency. During confined space work, appropriate rescue procedures must be available. Standby workers or observers need to be well trained in rescue techniques, first aid and resuscitation, and that respirators are easily accessible. It is important to recognise that any entry into a confined space for any purpose and for any length of time is a potentially dangerous operation requiring suitable safeguards. So, if you're required to work in a confined space, check to see what procedures are in place to manage confined space work. Assist in identifying the particular hazards associated with the confined space entry and appropriate controls to address these hazards. Check what monitoring systems and rescue procedures are available for each job.